Hi guys, Ravi here. Today I am going to discuss about the different biochemistry lab tests. Many parameters are get analyzed in the biochemistry laboratory. Some of them are routine chemistry tests and some of them are specialized tests. So today I am going to talk about the important laboratory tests which are routinely asked by the physicians, and I'll discuss their reference ranges as well as the disease conditions and clinical features. But before going into that, first we should know what are the samples that are get analyzed in the biochemistry laboratory. Okay, we receive different samples: blood, serum, plasma, CSF, urine. Again it will be either 24 hours urine or random, both inorganic as well as the organic constituents will be analyzed. Then different body fluids, stool as well as the stones. For example, renal stones and gall bladder stones. So these are the different samples that are get analyzed in the biochemistry lab. Today I am going to talk about the some important parameters that analyzed by using the blood, serum and plasma, and I will talk about urine as well. Here I will talk about the important and routine biochemistry tests. Okay, I'll discuss about the diabetic profile, that is diabetic mellitus, then liver function test and RFT, renal function test. Okay, first one is the diabetic profile. Mainly I will talk about the diabetic mellitus. Okay, not the diabetes insipidus. Okay, so when we need to test for the diabetic profile or diabetic mellitus, when patient has polyuria, polydipsia, polyphasia. Okay, so polyuria means frequent urination. Okay, polydipsia means excess intake of water, whereas polyphase means excess intake of food. Okay, so when any patient comes with these symptoms, then it will be tested, the patient samples will be tested for the diabetic profile. Now which samples has to be, which parameters has to be tested? Okay, for diabetic profile, mainly fasting blood glucose, postprandial blood glucose as well as HbA1c. Okay, so mainly these three parameters will be tested. Okay, so next, what is the normal range of these parameters? In case of fasting, for normal people it is up to 100 mg per dl. In case of postprandial, it is up to 140 mg per dl. In case of HbA1c, it is less than 5.7%. Okay, so what is we do? We do FPS, ppbs and HbA1c. Now, to confirm patient has diabetic, there is something called criteria for diabetes mellitus. Now we will see what is that criteria. Okay, so when the report is matched with this criteria, then only a particular person we can see has diabetic. Okay, criteria is if fasting blood glucose levels are more than 126 mg per dl and more than 1 time. That is the first criteria. Second criteria is if postprandial blood glucose values more than 200 mg per dl on one time or single occasion. Third one, if both fasting and PBBS are more than 126 and more than 200 mg per dl, okay, on same occasion, okay, so then we can call the person as diabetic. Fourth one is HbA1c. If it is more than or equal to 6.5%, then the person has diabetic. Last one is if random blood glucose values are more than or equal to 200 mg per dl and more than one occasion, consider as a diabetic. Okay, so this is the criteria for diagnosing diabetes mellitus. Now what we have is reference ranges. Okay, in normal people, as I told, it is up to 100 mg per dl. PPBS value will be up to 140 mg per dl, whereas HbA1c is less than 5.7%. Now, whoever has hyperglycemia, okay, more than the normal, they may develop either pre-diabetes or they may have diabetes. Okay, now in pre-diabetes, 100 mg per dl to 125 mg per dl in fasting. Okay, whereas in the postprandial, blood glucose values will be 140 to 199 mg per dl in case of the pre-diabetic people, whereas HbA1c values will be 5.7% to 6.4%. Okay, so whom we call pre-diabetic, whoever has these values, we will call them as a pre-diabetic people. Okay, they are at high risk to get diabetic mellitus in the future, that is type 2 diabetes in the future, as well as the cardiovascular diseases. Okay, in case of the diabetic people, values will be like this. Fasting values will be more than 126 or equal to 126, whereas postprandial values are more than or equal to 200 mg per dl. HbA1c values are more than or equal to 6.5%. So now when we need to do GTT or oral glucose tolerance test, when fasting and PPBS values are inconclusive, then we can go for the GTT. Not only that, during the pregnancy also GTT test will be done to diagnose diabetic. Glucokinase or exokinase method for plasma glucose. In case of urine, glucose will be identified by doing the Benedict's test, which is also called as semi-quantitative test. Okay, so this is about the diabetic profile and their parameters. Now I am going to discuss about the liver function test. What are the indications of the liver function test and why we do the liver function test? We should know first. To detect hepatic injury, it might be acute or chronic, may be mild or severe. Okay, again, nature of the liver disease also, liver injury, okay, might be hepatocellular or cholestasis. Second one is to assess liver function. Okay, liver involved with the many functions in our body, like metabolic function, it has synthetic function, it has excretionary function, storage function. Okay, so to assess the liver function also, LFT test will be asked by the physician. Now, what are the indications of LFT? First one is the jaundice, alcoholic liver disease, any undiagnosed chronic illness, coagulation problems. Okay, so these are some of the indications of the liver function test. Okay, so now what are the tests that has to be done in the laboratory? As I told, liver has so many functions. So okay, there are so many parameters are involved in the LFT, but there are few parameters which are clinically useful. Okay, so today I am going to discuss about those clinically useful parameters for LFT. Number one is albumin, then transaminases, mainly AST and ALT. Then we have total bilirubin including direct and indirect, then ALP, that is alkaline phosphatase, and GGT, that is gamma glutamate transferase. First one is the albumin, which is exclusively synthesized in the liver. Normal range is 3.5 to 5 grams per deciliters. Units are here grams per dl, not mg per dl. Half-life is about 20 days. Okay, so decreased condition of albumin is called as hypoalbuminemia. In all chronic liver diseases, albumin level will be decreased. Okay, not only in the chronic liver diseases, albumin levels will be also decreased in the nephrotic syndrome, where proteins will be lost in the urine. It also decreased in case of the malnutrition. Okay, so these are the conditions where we see mainly hypoalbuminemia, and when the values are more than 5.5 grams per dl, it is called hyperalbuminemia. Mainly we will see this condition when there is a dehydration. Okay, so this is about the albumin and it has its normal ranges. Okay, so it will be estimated mainly by the BCG method, bromocrystal green method, quantitatively. Next, the transaminases. Okay, AST and A. Okay, now AST normal ranges are 35 less than 35 international units per liter, whereas ALT in case of men, which are less than 45 international units per liter. In case of female, it is less than 35. In case of female candidates, less than 35 international units per liter. Okay, in any liver diseases conditions, AST and ALT values will be elevated. Okay, ALT is more sensitive compared to the AST in case of the liver diseases. Okay, AST is more sensitive in case of the cardiac diseases. Okay, so these are the transaminases and they are the reference ranges. Next is bilirubin. Okay, so it is the end product of the heme metabolism. Okay, so normal ranges are 0.2 to 1.0 mg per dl, whereas unconjugated bilirubin, it is 0.2 to 0.7 mg per dl, whereas the conjugated bilirubin, it is up to 0.4 mg per dl. Okay, so if values are more than 2 mg per dl, okay, clinical it is called as jaundice, that is yellowish discoloration of the skin. Now we should know in which condition which type of bilirubin will be elevated. In case of hemolytic jaundice, unconjugated bilirubin will be very high. In case of obstructive jaundice, conjugated bilirubin will be very high. But whereas in case of hepatic jaundice, both unconjugated and conjugated bilirubins will be elevated. So these can be detected by using Vandenberg test. Okay, so this is about the different types of the bilirubin and the conditions when there will be elevation in their ranges. Last what we have are the ALP and GGT. Okay, so ALP and GGT, they both elevate in case of the cholestasis condition, that is the obstruction in the flow of the bile to the intestine. Okay, so GGT is more sensitive to the alcohol abuse. Okay, so levels will be elevated in case of the alcohol hepatitis. So alkaline phosphatase normal ranges are 40 to 145 international units per liter. GGT normal ranges are less than 55 international units per liter. Okay, now we will see about the abnormal liver enzyme profile, where AST or ALT values are more than 3 times than the normal values and ALP values are less than 2 times, it will be hepatocellular damage. Okay, so now if you see albumin values, if albumin values are normal, it will be acute hepatitis. If albumin values are low, it will be chronic hepatitis. Similarly, if ALT or AST values are less than 3 times and ALP values are more than 2 times compared to the normal values, it will be cholestatic disease. Okay, now if you check albumin values, if albumin is normal, it will be acute cholestasis. If albumin values are low, it will be chronic obstructive disease. Okay, in case of the acute cholestasis we can check for the GGT values. Okay, if GGT is mildly increase, it will be extra hepatic cholestasis. If GGT values are very much elevated, then it will be internal cholestasis. Okay, so this is the enzyme profiles in the liver diseases. And one more thing we should know is the ALT to AST ratio, which is 0.8. It will be more than 2 in case of alcohol hepatitis. Okay, last one is the RFT, that is renal function test. Okay, so again, why we do the RFT? To screen the kidney diseases and to assess the renal function. If you are screening for kidney diseases, these parameters will be estimated. Those are plasma, electrolytes, urea, creatinine, and complete urine analysis. In case of the renal function test, it will be glomerular function test and tubular function test. Okay, now today I'm going to talk about the urea creatinine as well as the complete urine analysis. Urea is the end product of protein metabolism, or you can say end product of amino acids metabolism. Normal ranges of urea 15 to 40 mg per dl, and the daily excretion in the urine, it is 50 to 30 grams per day. Similarly to the creatinine, urinary excretion of urea, it will be in grams, not in the milligrams. Okay, the causes of increased blood urea. Mainly there are 3 conditions where we see elevated blood urea level. One is pre-renal condition, second one is renal condition, third one is post-renal conditions. Now what are the pre-renal conditions? Pre-renal means before reaching kidney, you can say. So these are dehydration due to vomitings, severe infections, fever, diarrhea. Okay, so all these will cause dehydration, that itself leads to the elevation in the blood urea level. Okay, so in these conditions renal function is proper, but the amount of blood reaching the kidneys are limited. Okay, and there will be elevation in the blood urea level. Second one is renal conditions, where kidney itself is involved in this condition. For example, acute glomerulonephritis, where kidney function is impaired, then malignant hypertension, then nephrosis. Okay, so all these are the renal conditions where you see elevated blood urea levels. Okay, these are the post renal conditions. Because of obstruction in the urinary flow, there will be elevation in the blood urea concentration. That means more amount of urea will be reabsorbed, and that causes elevation in the or increase in the blood urea concentration. Those are stones in the urinary tract. If stones are present, they will obstruct the urinary flow and more amount of urea will be reabsorbed into the circulation, that causes elevation in the blood urea. Second one is enlargement of prostate gland. What happens if prostate gland is enlarged? That will compress the urinary tract. Again, more amount of urea will be reabsorbed from the tubular renal tubules and there is a elevation of blood urea level. Any tumors also. Okay, so if tumors are there, again they will compress the flow and same thing will happen. That means urea will be more reabsorbed and there is elevation of blood urea concentration. So these are the pre-renal, renal and the post-renal conditions where you see elevation in the blood urea concentration, whereas urinary output, that is daily excretion of urea, that will be decreased. Okay, so this is about the urea. And how you estimate the urea? One most common method is DAM method, that is diacetyl monoxide method, and there are so many other methods also. By using urease enzyme also you can estimate urea. Okay, so enzymatic method. This is about the urea. Next what we have is creatinine. Creatinine is end product of creatine phosphate or CPK. Okay, so how much creatinine is produced in the muscle? That will be excreted in the urine. Okay, if 1 gram is produced, the 1 gram will be excreted in the urine. It won't be reabsorbed other like urea. Okay, then normal ranges in males it is 0.7 to 1.4 mg per deciliter. In case of females it is 0.6 to 1.3 mg per dl. If creatinine concentration is more than 2 mg per dl, that indicates that there is a impairment in renal function. Okay, so by the time creatinine levels increase to more than 2 mg per dl, kidney lost its function about 50%. That means when kidney lost its function about 50%, then only creatinine will start increasing in the blood. Okay, so this is about the creatinine. Okay, now we'll see what are the factors that causes elevation in the blood serum creatinine. Okay, factors which causes increase in the serum creatinine concentration. One is old age. Then it will be higher in the males compared to the females because of the more muscle mass, and as I told, in all renal diseases like glomerulonephritis, renal failure, pyelonephritis, in all these conditions serum creatinine level will be increased. Similarly, in urinary obstruction also the levels will be elevated, and there are conditions where you can see decreased creatinine concentration like low muscle mass, females, malnutrition. Now how you estimate the creatinine? There is a method called Jaffe reaction. Okay, by this test you can estimate the creatinine. Urine analysis. Not talking completely about urine analysis, but when you are checking the urine, these things should be done. First is physical examination, then chemical examination. In physical examination, color, specific gravity, volume and appearance. Whether it is turbid, whether it is clear, what is the color, is red or amber in color. Okay, then specific gravity. Normal specific gravity is 1.01 to 1.024. You can just say 12 hours and 24 hours, so you can remember the specific gravity of the urine. Then volume, whether it is decreased or increased. Then as I told, appearance. So these all are important when you are checking the physical characteristics of the urine. Then only go for the chemical examination, which include identifying the blood, proteins. Proteinuria is very important when you are assessing the renal diseases. Okay, mainly albumin will be appears in the urine. Okay, when there is a nephrotic syndrome, albumin will appear in the urine. Then ketone bodies, all bile salts, bile pigments. So all these will be identified by doing the chemical examination of the urine. Okay,